Yo, so Doom Patrol Episode 5, Paw Patrol. With the title like that, I was really expecting some references to the cartoon itself because my kid watches that. But there weren't really any references to it at all. In fact, by the end of the episode, I was thinking to myself, why was it called Paw Patrol? And the reality is, it's just because the pug featured in the episode, that there's a pug that, well, I'll get into that a bit later, but that's why the episode, and it's a very small part of the episode. Of course, it does have a big impact on the conclusion, though. But for the most part, this episode was it was essentially kind of a filler episode, but also at the same time uh, a conclusion to the last episode. So pretty much it's like a two-parter break from the overall direction, I guess, we're going in, but it does build upon that narrative. So it's really hard to say call what this is, but it was certainly was entertaining. Um, we see Mr. Nobody and Chief working together this episode. Not too much, but we do get a little bit of screen time of them working together. And it's interesting because this eye has been summoned, the D Creator has been summoned, and it just all this news has surrounded it, the media, and it just makes a reporter poof, and all these people like get scared and start screaming. They have that roach in here again, so that I don't really know what's going on with that ranting roach. The vet, Alan Tudyk, he's funny. He's hilarious. This episode, he's him and Chief are in this white space outside of reality, I guess, and he seems threatened by this D Creator because he's like, oh no, the end is coming. I haven't even been in the last two episodes. References like that are absolutely great. I'm actually enjoying them. I'm when I at first I was taken back by this type of stuff, but it's working out pretty great. And he's absolutely hilarious. But him and Chief have to work together to stop this D Creator, and it's very complicated because they got to do something in the past and combine it with something in the present to make it work. Basically, you need two different people, and so they go over this whole elaborate plot. They have to go back to Jane. They do show a lot of Jane's history, a lot of. It's hard to keep track of all the names, but I think she was Dr. Harrison or something. Maybe. I'm not sure, but basically they go back to the point in time where she's being kept in this institution, and Mr. Nobody contacts her through however he contacts, but they can just hear him speaking. He like freezes time before she's about to be injected, and he has her essentially go on to create this faith over the course of time within the institution, gather members, start this radicalized cult with a bunch of strange stuff to give birth to a creator, which is like the opposite of the D Creator. Basically, the way you create this thing is just building faith over time or whatever. And one of them has a suggestion because she's going on that it has to be a boy covered in tattoos, pretty much what Elliot was. But where the dog comes in, the Paw Patrol is one of them suggests, why does it have to be a person? And then why does it have to be in plain sight? So pretty much you get the suggestion that it should be a dog. The word should be covered in fur so they can't just be read and revealed. So you have the inception of this cult that gives birth to this creator, and you have this dog. So in the present day, there's a lot of interesting things going on. Cliff and Jane are still stuck in that snow globe, and Cliff's still dropping F-bombs. And one of the people in the past is told Dr. Jane's other persona, I think Dr. Harrison or what, suggests to find her, one of her cult members, and I'll find you in the future so you can remember. So, anyways, back in the present day, there's some confusion going on about who Cliff's dealing with because Jane's multiple personalities. Uh, and one line kind of took me out though because he's like, if things are gonna end, like he said this very funny line about being being a brain stuck in a robot body, being stuck in a globe, in Nurmheim. That name just sounds so funny to me. But he said if he wanted to, if things are going to end, he wants to be with Jane. It's really hard for me to believe that he's already that attached to Jane. But he is a brain in a robot body, so maybe it's not that absurd to suggest that he's already that attached to her because I mean, anyways, Kipling, one thing that's great is Chief just kind of wanders in out of nowhere back into the mansion and everybody's like, what the hell? And they very quickly find out he's working with Mr. Nobody to stop this D-Creator. But it's just funny because Cyborg keeps mentioning Mr. Nobody, and you can't mention the name because Chief just keeps on vomiting. It's funny. So they're kind of pissed that he's working with Mr. Nobody, but, greater evil sometimes, you have to work with. It's a necessary evil to work with Mr. Nobody on this to stop this D-Creator from ending reality. But there are some great scenes. Kipling wasn't as great as he was in the last episode, but he does have some funny stuff in here and drops some F-bombs himself. One thing that's kind of now you might be offended that I think this is hilarious because at first it's kind of sad, but Rita goes outside to talk to Elliot. He's still there, and he's blaming himself for this D-Creator appearing in the sky and just wiping out people in the blink of an eye. And she's talking to him, and she's getting him to basically get over it, comforting him, and telling him there's all kinds of things you can do with your life. We still have time to do these things and whatever. And she's getting him to feel better, and then poof, he's just gone. The D-Creator just blinked him out of existence. And that's when she noticed Chief just wandering in the mansion. So not only that, all kinds of other wackiness just ensues, back in the past, because Jane, Harrison, whatever, because she's insane, she tells her followers to find her in the present day, and what do the rest of the followers ask what are they supposed to do, because that one's supposed to find her in the present day, but the rest of the followers what are we supposed to do? And because she's absolutely insane, she tells them that they should dance. So you got this crowd when Chief and Kipling and all of them are going to find this dog, which they at the time they believe there's a person with tattoos on them. They take the bus, they go to find this dog, and find this person, and then they find out that it's a dog instead that they need to getting because the person there is just a douchebag. But all these crazy people from that institution show up, and they're dancing, playing this boombox, and it's what the hell's going on, or whatever. And this damn song's playing, Ring That Bell, and they can hear it in Nurmheim, and they're like, what the hell? It's just absolutely funny. And then that woman wanders into Nurmheim, the mental patient from the past, smoking a cigarette, carrying an oxygen tank, and tells him to go up there and ring that bell. She brings Harrison out of Jane. It's hard to keep track of all the personalities. But she brings that Messiah out. The one that created the cult. So they go and ring this bell while this woman's confronting the parents of Elliot, and she ends up blowing them up with an oxygen tank. Now, I thought she was going to do it with a cigarette, but she just pulled out a gun and blew it up. So, probably killed herself in the process. But a few things I'm overlooking. When they find out the globe, that's where Robot Man and Jane are, in this globe that's just been sitting in there the whole time. And there's a moment with Negative Man and Chief where he clarifies that the entity doesn't want to torture him, and that the entity's only torturing him because he tortures himself. And you get this really great moment between Negative Man and Chief. Beyond that, though, you get more playing off that where Kipling told Cyborg that, Chief isn't who he thinks he is. Sometimes he does things that are questionable. So you get more of Cyborg kind of seeing that in the Chief after Kipling suggested last episode. And there's just a lot in this episode, but essentially they form the Creator, and the Creator defeats the Decreator. It's this pair of eyes. A second eye appears in the sky, and they start staring each other down, mugging each other, if you want to call it that. And I'm not really sure, but somehow they end up wiping each other out. I bet one's supposed to create life and one's supposed to destroy life. So that wasn't really clear. But Chief does get taken. As part of the deal, Chief has to go back with Negative Man. So he has a nice touching moment with Rita and partially with Jane. And Cyborg tries to stop him from being taken. It fires up his cannon, but the cannon just keeps charging because Mr. Nobody freezes time and says, well, I'm breaking that promise that I would give you the goodbye because, he threatened to shoot me. So he takes Chief back and puts us back at square one with finding Chief. But we do get to see him when back in the past when Jane meets Chief and all that stuff, and a suggestion from Mr. Nobody to find the Doom Patrol, which will hit her later after she solves the Decreator problem. And it does hit her. Doom Patrol. I guess there's going to be an original team before them that they have to find, and will kind of give them more mixed feelings on Chief. But ultimately, the episode was really entertaining, really funny. I didn't get into it as much as I did last episode, but it's still great. I mean, you got these words pouring off this dog, Kipling reading it, and the way Kipling says his goodbye, it looks like he unzips a tent in the damn universe and just walks through it and just seals itself out. A lot of great things in here. Cyborg does get damaged, though, from that blast. It blows his arm off. And this part kind of confused me. I wasn't sure if he was worried about being a failure because he's got this thing on him where he's tap it and it calls an SOS for his dad to come help him. I wasn't sure because he was kind of panicking. His arm got blown off and he was panicking. Like he didn't need help. He didn't want it. But Robot Man went ahead and pressed the button anyway. So I wasn't sure if he just doesn't want to be seen as a failure because he's kind of got that, kid role, that rebellious kid role going on right now. But it could be that he's afraid that his dad might try to brainwash him when he operates on him, considering the things that have been going on. That's kind of how I feel with the way he was panicking, but I don't know. If he was just panicking over looking like a failure, then that's a little bit too much of a panic over something like that, man. Just come on. But really great. I really enjoyed Kipling. I really enjoyed the weirdness, the wackiness, a lot of funny stuff in here, and that we are back at square one with finding Chief. However, we have characters more fleshed out than they were before, and that's absolutely great. And I'm interested in seeing why Mr. Nobody implanted this Doom Patrol thing in her head. I want to see what that's all about. But it's probably what I'm thinking is that the original Doom Patrol, and he's hoping that'll, like, shatter their loyalty to Chief or something to that effect. That's what I assume anyway. I could be completely off, but this episode was pretty great all around. Visuals, acting, characters get fleshed out, the narrative, the payoff for the conclusion to the previous episode. Now the Chief thing, that sucks. That we're back at square one with that. But I really enjoyed it. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. It was pretty likable. Anyways, comment down below. Tell me your favorite moments. Just any Easter eggs or like, I'm not 100% familiar with Doom Patrol, or probably even like 75% familiar with Doom Patrol comics. So I'm sure there's a lot of things in there that I missed that are relevant to people more familiar with the comics, and I'd like to hear all about them. So comment down below, like, subscribe, stay awesome, rock on.